Welcome back to the Adrenal Fatigue Podcast. It's Danielle Zeiss here today, and I'm with Angela Rocchio, and today we're sharing 5 keys to improving your energy that don't include coffee, even if you're totally burnt out right now. It's going to be a wonderful conversation, but before we dive into it, we just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to all of you out there who listen to the show and to the different episodes we put out. You may or may not know, but producing a podcast really is a labor of love. And it really makes it all worth it when we see you, our loyal listeners, emailing us, letting us know how much our episodes have helped you out, when you share it with your friends, when you share it on social media. It's really just so amazing, and we're so grateful for you. Knowing that you're out there on the other side feeling supported really makes this so worthwhile for us, and we just wanted to take a quick minute to say thank you. So thank you. Okay, so here we are to chat about ways to improve your energy that don't include coffee, unfortunately, no matter how burned out you are. So where we want to start is, let's look at coffee, because it's something that a lot of us turn to when we feel really tired, and it can be one of those things that we truly lean on as a crutch to just help us get through the day, which no judgment around, but there could be something that you could start your day with that can actually improve your energy on a deeper level and in a less hormonally stressful way than caffeine can. And that is the adrenal cocktail. You may have heard of this already, and there's a couple different versions of what this could look like. But essentially what it is a hefty dose of minerals and hydration first thing in the morning, which is targeting your fatigue in 2 different ways, which is really great. So one thing I just want to say is a dehydrated body is a stressed out body. If your body does not have adequate water, it's gonna drain. You're not gonna have abundant energy. That's just simple biology. So waking up in the morning after a hard night's work of resting and digesting and rejuvenation and healing, your body does so much work while you sleep, right? So starting your day, instead of reaching for something like a cup of coffee, but with just water, is a really fabulous start. It's energizing, it replenishes, great for your skin, great for your cells, right? So this is food for your cells. But when we make an adrenal cocktail, we're getting that hydration in, but we're boosting the hydration by adding some minerals. So the traditional recipe is equal parts cream of tartar, which is a really common spice. You can actually find it in the baking section at the grocery store, but it's a really wonderful source of potassium. So you'll see different recipes from 1/8 a teaspoon to 1/4 a teaspoon. You just kind of want to keep it equal parts with the sodium. So let's say 1/4 a teaspoon of cream of tartar, and then 1/4 a teaspoon of really nice quality sea salt. So you've got your potassium, you've got your sodium. If you don't have the cream of tartar on hand, this is where you could substitute something like coconut water. But of course, you want the 100% pure, no other stuff added. You want the good stuff. And if you're curious, one of my tricks for picking good coconut water is just check out how much potassium is actually in it. If you put 2 brands side by side, you might notice one has over 1,000 milligrams of potassium in it, whereas another one might have only 300. And then when you look at the ingredients in that coconut water that has the lower dose, you'll see that there tends to be a lot of sugar, a lot of additives. So go with the better quality one, the one that has more potassium. You can add a little bit of sea salt to it. You could add some lemon. So like I said, there's a couple different ways you can make it, but really that potassium addition and the sodium addition is really the bread and butter of the adrenal cocktail. You'll see other versions that add things like orange juice, that add a little bit of vitamin C powder, that add some lemon. All of those, some of them add collagen powder. All of that's great, and it's really however you want to make it. We have a couple different variations of this on our website, which we'll link in the show notes. In our recipe book, the Eat for Energy recipe book, we have a couple different versions of this recipe there, but it's also all over the internet. If you just want to look up the classic adrenal cocktail. So this is a really wonderful way to start your day. Even if you're still having coffee, start with this instead and let us know. Some of our clients notice a significant difference in their energy levels and with their daily fatigue just by incorporating this drink into their daily routine, maybe once a day, sometimes maybe twice a day. So give it a try. Let us know how it works for you.
Awesome, Danielle. Thanks for breaking that all down. And not all coconut waters are created equal. That's helpful.
Yeah. And I should
Thank
say the
you for
same about
sharing.
sea salt too, right? Like sea salt, yes, but you want to make sure that you're not using table salt. My preference really is just like a natural, pure sea salt if you had to pick anything.
Awesome.
Good
Cool.
point.
Okay. So number one, the adrenal cocktail. Number two is sleep. Now, we all know that for many of you out there, sleep is an issue. And if it's not, awesome. So let's talk about this a little bit. And this is just a question to ask yourself. Are you making sleep a priority? And what I mean by that is that, are you really taking the steps that it takes, making the lifestyle shifts that will allow you to fall asleep easier? And, when you wake up in the night, what are you doing? What are your strategies? Those types of things. And then, are you doing things to optimize your sleep? Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit, Danielle. So for some people, they have heard this over and over again, right? You've been part of the adrenal recovery space for a long time. You know that going to bed by, some say 11, we would say 10 or 10:30, is going to be better for you because it will be easier for you to fall asleep, right? This is in touch with our natural circadian rhythms, our sleep-wake cycle. And even though we don't go to sleep when, right when the sun sets or shortly after when it's dark, the closer we can get to that and being in that rhythm, the better, right? Imagine thinking about, especially those moms out there, like when your kids are going to bed at 8 or 9, it's easy to fall asleep with your kids. But then like you try to go to bed hours later and it's like, it can be very challenging, especially after 11 o'clock. So you get that second wind, right? So you have to figure out what that time is between 10 and 11, but we definitely recommend you winding down, 9:30, 10 o'clock, start preparing. And that would be the first tip in the sleep department.
I think one of the challenges in that area is for a lot of people that those later hours in the night are the only time that we get to ourselves. And so if you're a parent, you might resonate with this. If you've been busy working all day, you might resonate with this. Like that's your you time. And a lot of people, that's where we might spend that time watching something on Netflix or just lying in bed or lying on the couch, just vegging out, scrolling through social media. And we totally get it if you're kind of in that space. But if you're feeling really burnt out and if you struggle with energy throughout the day, this is actually really valuable time that you could be getting more sleep, like just a couple extra hours of sleep. And this could profoundly influence how you feel the next day. So I just wanted to throw that out there and encourage you, if you're in this kind of area right now, to see if you can find that time for yourself at a different point in the day. Like if you love watching your shows and that's part of your daily routine, is there a time in the day where you can actually sneak that in earlier so that you still have that time, you're still watching your show, but it's not creeping into like the 9, 10s, 11s, 12s, 12 o'clock hour of the night when you could be getting that sleep? So just like a real life example with one of our clients, she found herself doing this and instead she started watching her Netflix movies and having that time while she was doing some of her household chores, like while she's folding her laundry, while she's meal prepping, while she's just cleaning up certain rooms, listening to podcasts or whatnot. But it allowed her to just really unwind and unplug after dinner and into the evening. And she found that just a couple extra hours of sleep was huge, just a huge shift in energy with just this simple tweak. And I know it's not that simple if that's your routine, but just something to really think about. Can you shake it up and get those extra hours? Especially if you're burnt out, it's going to really help your recovery.
Awesome. And such a real life example there. Yes. And I want to say, like, for those of you who still want to have that time, a little bit of time to yourself to watch shows, like start small, right? Like maybe it's just giving yourself like an hour after the kids go to bed. I'm just going to get real here. Like, okay, the kids go to bed at 8, maybe 8:15 to 9:15, you watch, give yourself like one show, right? And then you're still allowing yourself a little bit of time to take a bath or journal or give yourself a massage, some deep breathing. If you're not doing any of that before bed, just start with like 5 minutes and then you work your way up to, a little bit more time for yourself that is not looking at a screen. As many of you already know, right, that looking at the screen, that light shuts off the pineal gland, which makes melatonin, the hormone that allows us to fall asleep easily. So there's science to this. It's not just something we want you to do because we think it's better for you, whatever. There's science. So, love it. Okay. As far as, if you have a lot of insomnia, this is something you definitely want to, maybe work with a coach on how to have strategies for when you wake up in the middle of the night so that you're not just circling, the thoughts are just ruminating and circling. And, that is something that maybe is a little bit deeper of a conversation than we can provide in this moment, maybe a great time for another podcast. But one thing we'll give you is that when you wake up in the middle of the night, don't just lay there and get up. And whether it's, one of our big things is instead of letting it ruminate in your mind, like allowing it to get out on paper. Maybe there's some to-dos that you just need to get off of your head, out of your head and on paper. Maybe it's grabbing a book, grabbing a book and starting reading kind of makes me sleepy. Maybe that's because I'm a mom that doesn't get much sleep, but anyway, that helps sometimes.
Yeah, and we actually have a whole podcast about reasons why you might be waking up a lot in the night with a lot of really valuable tips in there. So we'll link it in the show notes or below this video so that you can check it out. Because there's a lot that we've touched on that episode if you want to dive into the sleep and then why you might be waking up a lot in the night section or part a little bit more.
Yeah. And, optimizing sleep, is just thinking about, how late are you eating dinner? Just going to kind of throw some tidbits out to you right now is optimizing sleep again is like the earlier you go to sleep, it's not just good for falling asleep. It's actually better for just naturally to be able to sleep more soundly throughout the night. And, are you eating too close to bedtime to where you might be kind of disrupting the sleep, right? Are there things in your space around you in your room that might be clutter or other things that might be disrupting sleep? Is it the right temperature, right? There's lots of things we can go into this. We have a whole YouTube, what do we have? Like a playlist on YouTube that's like 20 different videos on how to optimize your sleep. So you can check that out.
Yeah.
But to keep this fairly short, I think we'll move on.
I just had one more point, actually. Just one more quick thing. Sometimes people say like, well, when I start going to sleep earlier, then I start waking up earlier and I'm not really getting that extra couple hours. And what I'd argue in that scenario is it can be really good for your circadian rhythm to just like get to bed before that second wind. You still might find that you have a deeper sleep. But what I do find too is often those hours, those like me time that we were talking about earlier, when you get those in the beginning of the day compared to at the end of the day when you're tired and just find yourself scrolling, the morning is where you actually might have a bit more energy or a bit more space to do things that are part of like a really nourishing morning routine. And of course, this could be on the tail end of the day as well, but it could be a beautiful time for having a nurturing tea or nourishing tea, doing some journaling, doing some light stretching. It's a little bit easier, I think, to take advantage of the morning when it's just the start of a fresh day, sometimes then compared to the other. So that's what I would argue if you do find that you are just naturally waking up a couple hours earlier, like take that time for yourself and do something really nurturing to start your day off and make a really great start for yourself. So just wanted to throw that out there as well.
I love that. And it brought me to another point of when you're waking up in the middle of the night, sometimes people say, well, I have sleep issues and I wake up once a night or once or twice a night. And we also just want to say, and we should talk about this a lot, that necessarily isn't necessarily a sleep issue. So just being really mindful that that's actually sort of normal. We tend to sleep in blocks of time, often like 4-hour kind of chunks. And so just because you're waking up in the middle of the night doesn't mean there's a sleep issue there, but it definitely, if you wake up and then you start thinking about all the things, can be an issue. So don't want to go into that too much today, but wanted to mention it. Yeah. Okay. We ready to go on to key number 3? And this is about boosting your energy by really, it's important when we're talking about boosting energy naturally that we also understand and get really clear on what is sucking our energy, right? So we want to start off we're going to talk a little bit about some physical, but we want to start out with the mental and emotional piece. So, for example, I would love you to make a list of the things that could be sucking your energy in things like fears that are coming up in your world or in your daily life, anger, resentment, traumas, and these can be capital T traumas and lowercase t traumas. And so, capital T traumas might be, abuse, loss, a serious health trauma, accident, things like that. And then lowercase t, maybe just being more, not feeling, maybe kind of a big thing, but not feeling loved as a child, or feeling like just never feeling worthy, or little traumas of, your mother going to work when you were 5 and, you had to, I don't know, go to daycare instead of having your mom home with you. Those are things that maybe are more common, but less talked about and also not recognized as trauma, but it can be, right? So all these things can have emotions come up, right? And there's thoughts around those, right? So those thoughts create emotions. And those things could be in the back of our head, right? Even though if we don't think like, oh, those are things that have been around for a long time, it doesn't mean it's your normal, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's normal. Does that make sense? So if you have these, kind of intense emotions on the daily basis, maybe it's just that overwhelm of like not being able to get it all done. And that not having the confidence in yourself, because you're so overwhelmed that you don't believe that you can get everything done. That alone can be quite stressful, right, on the body. So recognizing that those things actually have a physiological effect and suck our energy. So anything on that you have, Danielle?
Yeah, I think it can be, like you said, it could be big things. It could be big things from our past that are exhausting us in a way that we might not even realize. But I think it's great what you said, to just get it down on paper. What is sucking your energy right now? And one visual that I really like to imagine, and we do this work with our clients, is, you may have seen it before. It's like imagining that bucket, right? Everybody has a different bucket. Everybody's bucket is a different size and has a different capacity for what it can hold. And we can think about what fills us up, right? Think about what we can put, what creates space in that bucket, and what fills it up. And by fill up, I mean like what adds stress to that thing. It could be your work. It could be the worrying about finances. It could be past traumas, like Angela said. And so we all have different capacities, and like that's just normal, right? So really thinking about what you're putting in, but also thinking about how you can make more space as well, I think is really important in this. And of course, there's going to be different ways to do that depending on what that is. But I love the idea of getting visual with it. As a visual person, I find it really helpful. And so if that resonates with you too, just draw this out and see what you end up getting down on paper. It might surprise you.
Absolutely. And just having a couple of strategies and tools like this to switch it. You can still have these things happening in your life, but being able to come off them, right? And come down off after the stressful event, after the stressful thought or the emotion. If you have the ability and the strategies to switch it, to reframe the thoughts and let some of those emotions go, feel them, and then allow them to let them go, the body will start to know that it's safe then, right? So it doesn't mean that you can't have any of these things happen in your life. Stresses are going to come your way all the time, but having coping mechanisms and strategies are so very helpful and can really start to kind of switch on that parasympathetic and just kind of get things realigned, right? So these are things, that allow you to be more in the present moment. Anything that will allow you, we would call them mindfulness exercises, right? Find something that resonates with you. It doesn't have to be meditation, although, we love meditation and believe that it is a powerful tool. But breathing, yoga, tapping or EFT, emotional freedom technique, journaling, like Danielle said, talking about even just visualizing yourself, having energy, seeing yourself doing the things that you love out in the world, that is really a powerful tool. And again, your body will start to feel safe. So anything that's grounding you, because what happens is when we are worrying about the future, right? We're in the future, right? And when we're thinking about the past, whether it's traumas or, what we didn't get done or whatnot, we're thinking about the past, and we're obviously living either in the future or the past. Where the grounding exercises, the meditation, the tapping, it's all about getting you present in the moment and being in your body. And there's more there, but that's like most key parts of it that are so important. And that's when our bodies can feel safe.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. And even just the word mindfulness, because sometimes in those moments when things are feeling particularly overwhelming or particularly chaotic, it's almost hard to pull yourself out of it and create a strategy and just like think of what tools make sense in those moments. But that's really what we need to do, because if we just keep pushing forward amongst the chaos, that is like the perfect path to burning out. Some of us have been there, and we've probably been there in some shape or form in our lives, in whatever capacity. But taking that pause is really, really essential. So this is a big, big thing. It makes a world of difference. And it just allows you to take back control, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, me too.
Taking pause is not something I was good at, and I still get so excited about life. It's sometimes hard for me to take a pause. So, this doesn't happen overnight, you guys, and it's okay. You don't just baby steps with all of this, right? If you can find 5 minutes in your day to chill out, to when you find yourself being in a state of stress, if you can take a couple of minutes to calm yourself down, it makes the world a difference. So it just really does start with being aware in your daily life when you're maybe stressing and maybe when you don't need to be, if that makes sense. And, you're rushing to do the dishes, right? But what if you could just actually enjoy the process, taking a few deep breaths while you do the dishes and be like, oh, actually, it's not that important that I get these done right away. If I just take a few breaths, enjoy the process, then, my body feels safe and I'm not going to burn myself out, right? So I always say it's not always what you're doing throughout the day and how many things you do, but it's how you do them.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you with that.
And actually, It's funny because I said it's like taking back your control, but oftentimes there's a control freak behind there that's really like you're trying to control everything. So it's also taking back your control, but also knowing it's okay to release the control that you might be trying to grasp on things. Like when you say just like, don't worry about the dishes, like let them go and just go put your feet up for a bit instead of, worrying about them. It's really like, that's powerful stuff. And it's just giving yourself permission to sometimes let go. So I think it's really good just to acknowledge
love that.
There's control there, but there's also letting go of control. And this could be we could talk about this for hours and hours.
I know. And I just had a great example of this with a client last week. And it was really nice. It's like, leave the dishes, go take care of yourself, and the dishes will be there when you come back. And that's more important. What's more important, your health or the dishes, right? And it turns out her husband ended up doing the dishes. So yay, win-win.
Yeah. Even better. It's incredible.
Yes, exactly. Okay, cool. Let's move on. I know we could talk about this stuff forever.
Yeah.
So number 4, we're going to get to supplements, you guys. And just know that, remember, supplements is just very small part of the recovery puzzle. This other stuff is really important. So we're getting there. Don't worry. We will share with you a couple of tricks there. And if you tend to always just wait for like the supplement piece, just be aware of that about yourself and see, what are some other areas that you might be, ignoring. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. Okay. Other things that could be sucking your energy besides the mental, emotional. Let's talk more about like the physical stuff, Danielle. So I know you have some good insights here. So thinking of things like, is digestion taking a lot of your energy? Inflammation, detox pathways, or having, poor detox pathways, blood sugar. I mean, this could be, I'm just going to share a couple examples. And then Danielle, if you want to elaborate, I would love for you to share.
I'm happy to. I mean, this is a big topic in itself for sure. And so, Angela, you mentioned digestion, and digestion is a big one because we've all been there where we've had a big meal and we feel exhausted after. Like it takes work, especially if you overate or you ate a really heavy meal. It takes work to digest. And of course, your energy is going towards dealing with that, right? So, digestion is a big thing. And especially if you're kind of eating meals like that on the regular, or having digestive difficulty, or if things aren't working well digestively, it's just taking a lot more energy out of you to try to do something that might not take as much energy for the guy beside you, right? So checking in on things like how efficient is your digestion is really big. Understanding if you're constipated or not, just like how is your daily motility? There are some people who, because it's normal for them, maybe having a bowel movement every couple days, not even realizing that that would actually be quite slow motility. And it's actually much more normal to be going daily, at least once a day, right? So just ensuring that things are up to speed with your digestion can just make a tremendous difference. And another one you touched on was inflammation, right? So these can go hand in hand. Inflammation in the body, that takes energy, right? And we always come back to this example, but your stress hormones, like think about cortisone, right? Cortisol and these hormones are one of the best natural anti-inflammatories that your body can actually make. So if you have tons and tons of inflammation in your body, that is a chronic call to your stress hormones to produce more stress hormones to help put out those fires. So that can actually keep you stuck in burnout if you have a lot of inflammation going on. And depending, like, I guess the first step when it comes to inflammation is like, what can you do to put out that fire? And this is where you're analyzing your foundations, right? Like, what's your diet like? Am I sleeping? Are you exposing yourself to stuff environmentally? These types of things are going to make an impact when it comes to inflammation. Then we have allergies, which is a whole other can of worms that we can touch on briefly, but essentially, and this can be very, this is very closely linked to what's going on with your digestion, but an allergic reaction or an immune response to certain foods is another cascade that encourages another hormonal response that can keep the body inflamed and keep the body really revved up. Blood sugar as well, of course. If our blood sugar is constantly going from high to low to high to low, our energy is going to be going with it. So there's so many different avenues that we can look at, and what's important for one might not be as important for another. And so it's really figuring out, again, it's like, what's draining you? Is it a blood sugar issue? Is it an inflammation issue? Is it digestion? Is it a little bit of all of these things? And this is something where working with a coach or a professional practitioner can help you narrow in, especially if you're exhausted already, like what's worth your energy right now. This is what our team loves to do. This is the type of work we do every day. If you need clarity on this, reach out, check out our website, and we're going to link some information on where you can find more about how we can support you in the notes. But like, get support, because it can totally transform things for you, and oftentimes a lot more quickly and more simply than you probably could ever imagine. And so I think
Yes.
I'll leave that topic with that, because I think it's pretty, it's a broad topic, but I think we touched on a lot of important things. If you have any questions specifically that are popping up, Angela, as I ramble on about this, let me know.
I think it's great. And our doctors are just amazing at connecting the dots. It's just so impressive to see them do this work. And they've been specializing in it for over a decade, which helps. But yes.
And we've really done our homework to find doctors that are good at putting the complex puzzle pieces together, because we get it. There's often a lot of layers that might be behind why you don't have energy right now. You might have, blood work looks fine according to your primary care provider, but you're still not feeling fine and you know there's more digging to be done, more puzzle pieces to link together. And like that's why we've sought out really great doctors who specialize in digging deeper with you. So know that if you're stuck, there's support here if you need it.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll move on to our final key to getting more energy right away or soon, is all about supplements. So we're going to share a few, and Danielle will talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so supplements is, this one could be its own like several group of shows because it's a doozy as well. And like you were mentioning earlier, Angela, supplements are one piece of the puzzle. And yes, they can be so supportive, but we see so many people in this adrenal recovery space making a lot of mistakes when it comes to supplements. And it honestly wastes time and it wastes money. And in the worst scenarios, it can actually set you back from moving forward. And so that's what we really don't like to see. In our programs, we really stress moving forward with supplements in a smart, safe, and effective way. And this is going to vary depending on what your history is, what you're focusing on, what stage of adrenal fatigue you're in, what medications you're taking. Like there's so many things to consider. So while we are about to talk a little bit more about supplements, I want you to just a straight up disclaimer, like don't add a bunch of things to your regimen based on this conversation, especially if you're taking a lot of things already. Always check with your doctor and know that it's just kind of general advice. It's really, it's impossible and not professional of us to sit here and tell you exactly what to take in what doses and what brands to use when we have no idea who we're talking to on the other side and what your unique biochemistry is. But we can speak generally as to where a really good starting place is to kick things off. And
Love it.
to kick things off is kind of coming back to that, what we were just mentioning earlier, is like checking out your foundations. So a lot of people are tempted to go and reach for things like adaptogens and these energy formulas that you might find at your health food store or online, right? But where is that energy coming from? If you are lacking essential vitamins and minerals, it's going to be really hard to create energy when your body doesn't have those essential cofactors to function optimally. So we always got to come back and look to, are my main bases covered? Making sure that your diet is in check. Minerals, multivitamin, healthy fats, health, like building up a healthy microflora. So good probiotics, that type of thing is a really kind of safe place to start for many people because it's going to help give your body that strength, especially if your diet hasn't been on point and you're lacking in some of these areas. Simply adding this type of thing can be huge. Making sure that you're getting enough carbohydrates, eating enough every day, that you're getting enough protein, that your diet is filled with healthy fats and not the opposite, right? This is really huge. Okay, so yeah, when it comes to supplements, it's really just analyze your foundations and just make sure that your bases are covered to start there, rather than just reaching, like I said, for an adaptogenic formula or these energy formulas that you find at the health food store. I think that's the best place to start. And if you do want more info on supplements, we actually have a whole masterclass that we're doing right now where we dive into this topic in a lot of detail. So I actually would love to invite you to that. We talk about what adaptogens we like, when to use them based on what stage of adrenal fatigue you're in, how to really use it safely and effectively. It is wonderful. We really unpack all the need to knows when it comes to using supplements to streamline your adrenal fatigue recovery. So I'm definitely going to link that below. And with that, I think that's good for today. So thank you so much for listening and being here. We really hope you find these tips helpful. Try them out. Let us know how they work for you. If you did find them helpful, feel free to leave a review, touch base with us on Facebook or Instagram, and just let us know.